Here it is at long last, the brand new Ford Mustang Mach-E, and it's going to be in Australian showrooms in December 2023, so not too far from now. Today is a very special day. We are here with Ford to celebrate their first electric car in Australia. Ford will be bringing 3 variants of the Mustang Mach-E to market in Australia. There'll be the Select, the Premium, and the GT as the flagship. Now, prices start at around $80,000 before on-road costs and go as high as $107,000 before on-road costs. So today we've had the very first drive of the Mach-E on Australian roads. It's very exciting. We've also had the opportunity to go out on track and on the skid pan and see how it performs there as well. But on today's video, we're going to be looking at the interior of the car. We're going to have a look at the technologies, the safety, and of course, how it drives on the road. But before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe to Chasing Cars. So what can I tell you about the car right next to me? Well, this is the premium variant, which means it sits right in the middle of the lineup between the Select and the GT. It's priced at around $91,000 before on-road costs, which isn't so cheap when you look at some of its main rivals, such as the Tesla Model Y and the Kia EV6. However, this premium variant has plenty to offer in terms of its powertrain and its battery. Now, this car has a 91 kilowatt hour battery that'll give around 600 kilometers of WLTP range. And this model is also rear-wheel drive with a 216 kilowatt, 430 Newton meter electric motor on the rear axle. So it's more of a driver's car than some other EVs. So that's a bit about the stats, but now it's time to look at the interior of the new Mach-E. So this is our very first look inside the Mach-E, and this premium version is, well, pretty premium. It looks really good in here. I really love the B&O sound system that actually flows right across the dash. The leather steering wheel is really nice and feels good to use, and the seats are very comfortable as well. Now, when driving this car out on the road today, I did find that this driving position is a little bit on the high side. This seat's all the way down, and it is still a little bit too high for my liking, but it still has that sporty sort of sense to it, which I really like. Now, in terms of standard technology in here, right up front, you have a 10.2-inch screen. Look, this is okay. It doesn't have a lot of functionality though. It doesn't seem to do much, and the steering wheel buttons don't work well with the screen, which is a bit of a shame. And also it doesn't have fuel efficiency, or sort of say electrical efficiency readout on that screen. You have to do it through the menu in the main screen. Now, the main screen is the centerpiece of this car. It's a 15.5-inch screen. It's pretty massive. It looks like a computer on its side. It's very fast, very responsive. It runs wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. And the climate controls are also integrated into it. They work pretty well, and there's a little turny knob thing that you can use to change fan speed, etc. So I think that's really premium. It sort of looks a lot like a Tesla style screen, but for the most part, it works very well. Now, you probably want to know about some of the ergonomics, the practical stuff about this car. You've got USB-C and USB-A port just right up the front there. You've got plenty of storage space. Underneath here, there's a really deep bin. You've got 2 cup holders. There is pretty decent sized door bins as well, which is always handy for the big drink bottles. And these seats, they're electric and they are heated as well, which is really awesome. Very comfortable. We were driving this up and down the highway today. We were driving it through country roads, and for the most part, very comfortable car. And one of the really nice features of this car, the Polestar also has this, but a full moonroof or sunroof. You can't close it, but it does have tinting on it, so you won't get burnt from the sun if you are driving on really hot summer days, especially up here in Queensland where it gets bloody hot. So what's the back seat like of the Mustang Mach-E? Well, a lot of people are going to be spending time back here, a lot of families buying these sort of cars, and it feels really spacious. I mean, I've got plenty of knee room and toe room, and the ceiling feels quite high as well, which is great. It doesn't feel clustered like a lot of other SUVs. Very comfortable. And these seats, they've got like a really nice bit of padding at the back, which is very comfortable. I haven't felt this comfortable in a back seat for quite a while. Now, back here we have 2 USB ports. You've got one USB-A, one USB-C. We've got 2 sets of air vents here. You've got little door pockets here, and you've also got a fold-down armrest with 2 cup holders. So There's plenty going on back here, and I think this would be perfect for kids. So here we are, we're in the Ford Mustang Mach-E at last. It's happening, we're in the car, we're driving it. It's such an exciting day. We're in the premium, so we're in the middle spec of the Mustang Mach-E family. And this car has the best range of the lot. It has 600 kilometers claimed range on the WLTP cycle. And that's a pretty impressive claim. That's up there with some of its biggest competitors, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6, the Tesla Model Y. But it's also got plenty of power, more than most hot hatches. And plus, it's rear-wheel drive as well, which is a real bonus. Now, out on the road, look, it is quite firm. It's firmer than I was expecting. It sort of judders around a bit, especially in the rear axle, you can really feel it. It seems to be tuned for a sporty drive, and I completely understand that because being a Mustang branded product, that's what it's for. It's a Mustang product. Even though it's very, very different to a normal Mustang, it's still branded like one. And look, we've had the opportunity to drive the car on track today through a skid pan and through a Motorcana. It was so much fun. And I think that's where this car really shines, is actually on track, which is a bit annoying because most people aren't going to drive the Mustang Mach-E on a track. They're going to be driving it as a daily driver. But I think the premium really sets its mark as the best middle ground product. We've also got the Select and the GT product available. This car's about $91,000 before on-road costs, which is pretty expensive when you look at what some of its main competitors are like. But, you know, it still does a good job of being a performance sort of orientated car. It doesn't have the same power as the GT, but I'm really enjoying driving it. It just is a little bit on the firm side, and I think that perhaps if it had the MagneRide dampers of the GT, that it would be a different story. Now, this car is rear-wheel drive, just like the Select, which means that you do get that nice handling balance, the way it pushes you through corners. I really like that fact. Being rear-wheel drive is awesome. I'm so glad that EVs are going back to being rear-wheel drive. We've seen that with the Polestar 2, and that car really excelled. I think this car is honestly quite similar to a Polestar 2 in a way. It's priced similarly, it drives quite similarly, although the Polestar does, I think, ride a little bit better. But today we've been able to drive the car on track and actually put this car through its paces, and it was really fun. We did only drive the GT on the track, but the GT was pretty impressive. You could sort of rotate it when you come in and out of corners. Very enjoyable and very rewarding, which are words that you don't often associate with EVs. But we are seeing cars like the MG4 and a whole bunch of others that are bringing enjoyment back to EVs. Now, are there any other downsides to the car? I'm not the hugest fan of the 10.2-inch slimline cluster that the driver has. It doesn't really have much functionality. You can't change it very much. It just is what it is. I mean, the big benefit is you get this massive 15.5-inch screen. It's very Tesla-like, and it's absolutely massive. It looks like a computer screen stuck onto the dash. So that's impressive. I think this is the perfect middle ground for the Mustang Mach-E range, the premium, with such a good range. You know, 600 kilometers of range is so impressive, and that will remove any form of range anxiety that you might have. That'll get you probably 2 weeks worth of driving if you live in the city, maybe even more. So that's certainly impressive. So all in all, what do I think about how the Mustang Mach-E drives? Well, as I said, it's kind of similar to a Polestar 2 in the way that it handles, and it is a really impressive car on the track. On the road, I think it's good at a lot of things. It's not perfect. The ride is a little bit firm and jittery, but it feels rewarding to drive and enjoyable to drive. And I think that's such a big factor in EVs these days. It's such an important thing to make sure that EVs are enjoyable, and that because they don't have an engine, people think, oh, they're going to be not so fun, they're going to be a bit boring. This car doesn't feel boring. I'd happily drive this car on a day-to-day basis. Now, we'll talk a little bit about safety. It's so important these days with modern cars. This car is very well stocked with safety features. On the highway, we did some driving down from Brisbane to the Gold Coast. The lane keep assist was sort of going in and out of the lane, which was a bit concerning, but it seems to be okay on lower speed roads. Like right now we're driving at about 60 kilometers an hour, and it doesn't seem to be nipping at the wheel so much, so that's good. But there is a full suite of safety on this car, to be expected in this day and age, and I think for the most part it works pretty well. So you might look at the figures of this car in terms of performance and think, 200 kilowatts, that's not that much. But on the road, it's plenty. I've driven the GT on track, the really fast one, the 358 kilowatt one, and that was ballistically fast. It'll do a clean 0 to 100 in 3.7 seconds. This one isn't slow though, by any means. You put your foot down and you just go. It's, yeah, pretty fast for a mid-tier car. So with the new Mustang Mach-E, we were able to drive it on the track and on the skid pan, and we were able to use the GT version, and that has the all-wheel drive system, 358 kilowatts and over 800 newton meters of torque. So it's a significant car in terms of its outputs. And we got to go on the skid pan, and that was a lot of fun because we got to actually see where the limits of grip were, especially on the wet, but how little steering input you need to put in order for it to drift. We tried it in Untamed mode, and we tried it in Untamed Plus mode, which is even less traction control. And we got to do some really good slides. It was a lot of fun, and it was kind of easy to slide, more easy to slide than I thought. And I mean, yes, this is just a party trick. It's not really gonna be how you drive the car normally. But for me, it was a lot of fun, and the all-wheel drive system, it does sort of have that rear bias feel, and you can control the slide right around the circle, so that was pretty impressive. And on track, we got to experience the Motorcana. So there was some slaloms, there was some fast sections, and we got to do a lot of tight hairpin cornering, and there was so much grip. This car just gripped up and went, and it's just got that straight line speed, which is kind of frightening if you're not used to it. Now, what's the cabin like? Well, it certainly feels pretty premium. I don't know if it's $90,000 worth of premium. And yes, it's got the premium name. The seats are nice. They're not the super sport seats that you find in the GT, but for the most part, I like the materials. I like the B&O sound system that's integrated into the dash, and it's got that classic soundbar sort of look to it. So this is a real-world test. We're basically driving through a storm right now on the media launch of the Mach-E. And this is a real-world test. This is what it's actually going to be like when you're driving around, especially in Queensland, where there's afternoon storms. Because it's got that rear-wheel drive, you'd think it would be a little bit slippery, a little bit temperamental, but actually it is quite grippy. It feels stable, it feels safe. I think that a lot of families would appreciate this car and the safety of the car. And look, I don't feel at all uncomfortable here, and we're going through some pretty rough weather. So big props to the Mustang Mach-E for feeling safe on the road, even through the worst of conditions. This is the perfect test. Driving through a storm in the Mustang Mach-E, brand new car, such an exciting day. This is really a good effort from Ford, and what we will see going forward with the rest of the range. We've got the E-Transit coming, we've got the electric Puma confirmed, and we may even have the Ford F-150 Lightning as well, which would be pretty bloody awesome. That thing is going to be a lot of fun, but for now, this is a good first attempt from Ford at bringing an EV to Australia. It's expensive, but it's pretty capable. It's comfortable. It is a little firm on rough roads, but on the highway, it's pretty good. Yeah, what a thing. So that's a very first look at the Mustang Mach-E right here on Australian soil. It's super exciting. I'm really happy for Ford. They have done an awesome job to bring this car to Australia. I've been writing about this car for so long, and just to get in it and have a drive is really important. And for the most part, this car is really good. It's got long range, it's got a nice premium interior, and it just feels quality, and that's really important in a vehicle. However, I did find that the ride is a little bit firm on country roads and in the city. It's okay on the highway, but I think this is more of a sportier car than most would think. So it would be pretty good on the track. We've had a go, it's very fun. But for the most part, this is a very good first effort from Ford. I'm really excited that this has happened and it's here, and it'll be in dealerships very, very soon. But what do you guys think about the new Mach-E? Is this something that you'd be after? Well, let me know down in the comment section below. And while you're there, make sure you like and subscribe to Chasing Cars.